What's good, everybody? My name's Hameen Phillips. You're watching the Sticky Web Domains channel. So today, I want to address something that seems like everybody has a little bit confused about. Ever since I made that video on being furloughed, I've been getting some questions regarding seniority and how seniority affects you and exactly how does it even work. So today, we're talking seniority. But first, you already know what we got to do.
Have you ever felt?
Are you listening? Damn. Yeah. Yeah.
Okay, you guys. So in today's video, I want to break down the 9 most common questions when it comes to seniority. So let's do this. The most common question, or the first common question I hear a lot is, what does the term T&E service mean? Okay, so the term T&E service means Trainmen and Enginemen. And a trainman can mean a variety of things. A trainman can be the conductor, switchman, the hostler, RCO operator. It basically just means you're part of the train crew. And the engineman is normally referred to as just the engineer. So, T&E service, trainman, and engineman. The number 2 most common question I hear a lot is, what exactly is railroad seniority? Okay, so a railroader seniority is established by his or her hiring date. Okay, so the railroad is a little different than most jobs. They don't hire one at a time, and when they do hire, they normally will hire in a group. And since they hire in groups, well, everybody can't have the same seniority. So what they have to do is kind of put you on a roster. So when you're hired in a group, normally or commonly known as a class, you're all going to have the same hiring date. However, once the roster is out, then everyone will have a place in seniority. And the way they usually do a roster depends on the terminal or the railroad you work for. You can either put names in a hat, or you can use like spade cards and just determine who has the highest cards and the lowest cards. For example, for me, in my class, we went with spades, and aces was basically ace was trump. So if you pull the ace, then you're number 1. If you pull the king, you're number 2, so forth and so on. And that's basically the way that seniority is established for that class. Seniority is important because if you're the bottom guy in that class, well, you may get bumped around quite a bit, and a lot of days you may not even work because you might be on a bump board. So this is going to be a very crucial process, is that roster, and finding out where you are going to be at in seniority. Because if you're the top guy, that's great. No one from your class is going to be able to bump you or displace you from a job. So that's great. So seniority is definitely important. The first day you start class, and when you guys decide to pull for seniority, which might be, I'm guessing, between weeks 1 and 3, just determining on your training and where you guys are at, you're really going to want to focus on getting some good seniority. I mean, it's pretty much out of your hands. There's really nothing you can do, because if you're putting your name in a hat, or picking a card, well, unless you're psychic, you're not going to really be able to practice that. But just try to have a good day that day, because you definitely want to get a good ranking in seniority. Okay, so another common question I get, number 3, is what does the term bump mean? Okay, so to bump someone, and I want to give you guys, basically what that means. To bump someone is basically slang for the railroad for exercising your seniority right. Okay, so when you're displacing someone from their position and you bump them, you're basically exercising your seniority right. There's a lot of reasons why guys might bump you from a job. Guys bump one another simply because some jobs work, less than others. Some jobs make overtime consistently, and some guys want that overtime, so they might bump you to get that job because of the opportunity to work that overtime. Um, Other people, they might bump you just because, they want that day off. But whatever the reason, the job is more desirable than the one that the other guy with more seniority currently holds. So if that guy feels like he likes that job better than his and he can bump you, then that's what he's going to do. He's going to bump you. And that's basically what that is exercising your seniority right and displacing the guy with less seniority. Okay. So the number 4 question I get quite a bit is, what does the term assigned job mean? Also known as daily work. Assigned job is basically kind of like more of a normal life. You know what time you're going to work, you know your days off, and a lot of guys like that because it's just the closest thing to like a normal life. You're not on call and you know what your job's going to be the day before. So when you're on an assigned job, that basically means that just like a regular job, you have a schedule and you're going to know where you're going to work. So that's what that term means, assigned job. I believe my terminal has it. We call it daily mark. Depending on what railroad you're at and what terminal, they may not have assigned jobs. It could be all extra board because maybe that terminal might have a whole lot of road jobs and just not a lot of yard jobs. And if that's the case, then you most likely will just have an extra board or a pool. So you may or may not even have the option of an assigned job. It all depends on the location you are with and the railroad you're with. So question number 5 I get quite a bit is, what is the extra board? Well, the best way to explain the extra board is the extra board is basically the guys who fill in for the assignment board. So the assignment board are the guys who, they know, like I said before, they have a schedule, they know the jobs they're going to work, they know their days off. But when those guys call in sick or they just can't make it to work, well, now the board goes to the extra board to fill those spots for the yard or the road or whatever it may be. So the extra board is basically just a way of saying you're the extra guy in case, we need backup. Well, there's pros and cons about being on the extra board. The pros is that if you're not looking to work, 5 days straight, you can probably get a couple of days off by working the extra board if the assigned board is going smoothly and everybody's going to work and they're filling all the spots. And being on the extra board, you still get guaranteed pay. So even though you didn't go to work that day, there's still a guaranteed pay that you will get just for being available and on the boards. So the cons about the extra board is that you have to be available for work. And that's the key word, is availability. When you're on the extra board, you can be called at any time to work any job. You have no say over what job you want to work. They're going to call you and give you your assignment, and that is basically the con about the extra board, is that you have no real say on what you want to do or what job you're going to work. You're going to do whatever you're assigned to do according to the boards. Okay, so that is what the extra board is. So I hope I answered that question for you guys. Another question I hear a lot is, why do they call them boards? They are called boards because back in the day, before computers, employees were listed on large chalkboards in order of seniority in the job position they currently have. So that's basically how that term, boards came about. These boards were displayed in employee work office to allow employees to see who held what job and what order of seniority other employees were, so they could make decisions on when and where they might exercise their seniority right or bump someone off their position from the board. Okay? Another question I've been getting a lot is, what is pool service? So, pool service is a group of employees who work on first in and first out system. The first guy rested will be the first guy called back out to work. The next guy rested gets the next call. These guys don't get work regular scheduled jobs. They can be away from their home terminal for several days. They work their way back and forth across the respective territories. The next question is, what is a bid? So a bid is basically when someone vacates their current position. That makes a job open, which is then up for bid. So for instance, if I have a job, if I see a job that I want because of the days off, well, I'm going to bump X, Y, and Z for it, okay? So now that I bumped X, Y, and Z, they're now on the bump board. I'm in their spot, but now the spot I just left has been vacated and is available to be bidded on for someone else who actually might like it. They might say, oh, okay, that spot's open. I've been wanting to get that spot. I'm going to put a bid in for it. So when, trainmen put bids in for these spots, it's basically like an auction. The guy with the most seniority is going to win that bid. But there are times when, let's say, that spot is up for auction currently, but someone off the bump board with quite a bit of seniority decides to mark up to that spot. Well, if they didn't put a bid in for it, a guy with less seniority can actually win the bid because the guy with the most seniority didn't put a bid in for it. He just kind of moved to it. And in that case, a guy with less seniority can bump a guy with more seniority because that guy with more seniority didn't bother to put a bid in for the job, which means he can be displaced by someone with less seniority. So you got to be careful of that. If you decide to move to a spot that is in auction and you like it, make sure you put a bid in for it so that you're not outbidded by someone with less seniority because you didn't bother to even put a bid in. So that can happen, and be careful of that, right? All right, so another question I've seen to get a lot is, what is changing crafts? So changing crafts is when, for example, I'm a conductor, and let's say I want to try something new. So I want to become like a signal maintainer or maybe a carman. So now I want to go into a whole nother craft. And when you decide to change crafts, now you're basically giving up your seniority. So you have to, be careful of that. If you decide you want to go from a conductor to a carman situation, then you might have to start all over in seniority. And, if you're willing to do that, that's cool. But if you feel like, no, it's not worth it, then you might just want to stay within your own craft. Because the minute you decide to go out of your craft, you're giving up your seniority and you're starting fresh. All right. So, number 10. The last question that I hear a lot is, what does it mean to be marked up? Well, basically, when you're marked up, that means that you have graduated from class and that you have received all the necessary check rides that you need to do before you can get your very first compensated start. And when I say that, I mean not your student pay, but your very first compensated start as a trainman. When that happens and you mark up, then you go onto the boards and you are basically in the rotation. You're on the roster. And when you get called in for that job, that's called your first start. And at that point, you're all marked up. Okay? So I hope that, this information helped you guys get a better understanding of these terms and how important seniority is. If you guys like this video, go ahead and hit that like button below. Also, share it. Share this video with anybody you guys think it can help. And leave your comments below if you got any situations where seniority was either in your favor or not in your favor. Let us know, how your seniority impacted you on your job on the railroad. Also, subscribe. If you guys have not subscribed yet, I really don't know what to tell you at this point. But subscribe today so that you don't miss another upload. And hit the alert bell so that you know when I go live. On that note, you guys, you already know. I'm going to see you on the rails. Peace.